Hello and welcome to This Is R&B's The Reach, where we explore R&B and its effects on TV, film, theater, and culture. I'm your host, Lynette Wallace. If you were like me, in 2020, you immersed yourself in entertainment to beat the quarantine blues. You couldn't turn on a streaming service without bumping into our next guest. From Netflix, Disney Plus to Hulu, you name it, she's on it. Please welcome Broadway and West End star, recording artist, and film actress, Marisha Wallace. Hi, Marisha. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
We're so glad to have you here with us today.
It's good
now,
to be here.
You have been working nonstop, a blessing most artists would only wish for during these times. Besides the glitz and the glam, can you please tell us a little bit about the hard work and the effects the pandemic has had on you mentally, physically, professionally, and personally?
It has been definitely a shift that we went through. I went from doing 8 shows a week, on the West End, and I had just finished going on my first UK tour of my own music. I was in the middle of that. And then the pandemic struck. I did 5 cities and then we were canceled. And I was at home with coronavirus myself. So it was definitely a scary time. I didn't know if I should go back home, if I should stay. I had other American friends who were here in London. I was working on Waitress in London, and Sarah Bareilles was here, and they all went back home, and I was like, should I go home? I don't know. But something told me to stay, and I did. It's definitely been for me, I felt like the way I was going was I was working harder, but I wasn't working smarter, if that makes sense. So now I can take this time to be creative and do the things that I've actually wanted to do my whole career, which is writing and creating music and being more of an author of my fate rather than just letting things happen to me, which has been great. But spiritually, it's definitely been hard being away from family and not being, with your support system, but, we've made a way.
Of course. So what was it like recording your first album with Decca Records, part of Universal Music Group's, in your kitchen?
That was crazy. Well, I made it so I had like a 1-bedroom apartment in Greenwich. I'm currently in Belfast, so this is not the apartment, but when I recorded that, I was recovering from having coronavirus. I was sitting on my couch and I was just like, what can I do to help? Because I knew that it was going to be a long time for people to be out of work. Even 2 weeks out of work for an artist is the difference between paying your rent and being evicted. Like, that's how serious it is. So I just wanted to do something to raise money. So I was like, I'm going to do this cover of Annie, of Tomorrow from Annie. And my producer sent it over to me because I had sang it on my tour before it closed. And I was like, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to release it to raise money for charity and for Broadway Cares and for Mad Trust UK. And I had actually sent it to Decca Records to release it for me, to help me with it. And they said no, which is so funny now. So they said no because they're working on other things. And I was like, people say no, it happens. So then I self-released it myself. And I got all my friends, all the famous friends I could find to be in the music video that I edited together of us holding the lyrics, but just like a human lyric video. And it just blew up, and it got onto the radio. The Queen of England, the royal family, heard the song on the radio.
Oh, just a little old lady,
The Queen, and called the radio station and was like, who is that? How do we find her? And they asked me to sing it at the Royal Variety, but it was crazy. And then that same record label that said no to helping me do the song asked me to sign a major record deal, and I got to create my album Tomorrow. And that all happened in the space of 3 months.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you no. You are the pursuant of that. Now, your single Tomorrow, as we spoke about it just a second ago, was released during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And then it became a unlikely anthem of hope. Tell us what it was like releasing that song during that time and what the experience was like being an American overseas during it.
Well, when I released the track, I had no idea that that was going to happen because originally I was just trying to raise money for, for theater folks. I had no idea this whole Black Lives Matter movement was going to take off. And the weekend that I released the track, which I did not know, was the weekend that everything went dark. Remember that weekend when the whole internet went black and I was like, don't post, don't say anything, don't do anything. And that's the weekend it came out. And that was literally the only thing playing over the radio at that time. And for me, it was just like, wow, this song became something else. And I remember Latrice Royale messaged me and was like, and she's from Drag Race, she messaged me and she said, this song has really struck a chord with me. And I was feeling so hurt about, what happened to George Floyd and all that. And she was like, it was the only sense of hope that I had in that whole weekend that I had that things might get better. And so it was definitely like, and being far away, that was the first time I've ever felt Black Lives Matter somewhere besides the States. Because like, usually when the Black Lives Matter thing kicks off, it's just like, an internal kind of American thing. But this was in Paris, it was in Europe, people were feeling it everywhere. In London, there was protests in Trafalgar Square, like that's never been done. Like that was like, people were protesting at Buckingham Palace, like that was insane. I think that was the first time it rocked the world, and to have a song come out around that same time was just incredible, the timing of it.
Right. I just want to let you know that song struck a chord with so many people. So it was just nothing but timing, perfect timing, divine timing at that moment. It just needed. I know when I first heard it, I was like goosebumps and then tears. And that doesn't normally happen to me all at once. Most of the time it's like, oh, that gave me like a good feeling. This was hope and pain wrapped in like, it was just a perfect moment. There's no way to describe it other than that. Wow. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Now, rewinding a little bit, we know you got your start in theater. How has theater prepared you for where your career is today?
Wow, theater prepared me so much because I'm used to hard work. Because I was like, theater is so different from TV and film or any other, medium, because it's all day, every day, like 8 shows a week. You're always in show mode. You're always thinking about what you're eating, what you're doing. You don't get breaks in between. There's only like one day for you to recover and then be ready for the next thing. So I think that really affected my work ethic. Like my work ethic is high, and I didn't really know how high it was until I started moving into other industries, and they were like, oh, you're already, you know your lines. Oh, you know what you're supposed to do. Oh, you're on time. Oh, you've gone above and beyond what you've asked you to do. So, but I think that just comes from that theater training of like always competitiveness of trying to be the best, and also how hard we work to maintain, a standard of excellence that we have to put out on stage every night. So I think it definitely prepared me for it in a good way. And I'm so glad I'm used to being out there, used to being on stage, so that when the stages got bigger, I was okay, I was prepared for it.
Definitely. What R&B artists or artists in general do you listen to that have influenced your artistry for theater, but also with your new recording life that you are embarking on?
I've always loved old soul artists, but I also love like people like Shaka Khan and Whitney Houston. I love Etta James. She always sings with so much passion and soul in a time, when that was considered pop music, which is so crazy now, or R&B music or whatever. But she sang with so much soul and so much, gravitas. And current people that I listen to, like I always loved, I've been listening to Emily King, who's amazing. I think she does some really good like R&B, and also Corinne Bailey Rae, and there's just like some other amazing artists. But like I always go back to the originators of soul when I'm like looking for inspiration to be like, what made it, what made them so fresh at the time. Like why was it, pertinent and amazing? And I feel like R&B today is definitely in that same vein, but I feel like that soul is coming back because the turmoil came back. Like the Black Lives Matter movement happened, and now the music is starting to sound more soulful than it ever sounded before. So I think we're all taking a cue from what's going on around us, and giving things a little bit more gravitas, for sure.
Definitely. I do believe that R&B affects culture in general, and usually R&B is what expresses the signs of the times more than any other medium when it comes to music. So, speaking of that, has R&B affected your career at all?
It has, because R&B in a different country is all soul, if that makes sense. I feel like there's not a distinction between R&B and soul music and funk, and here it's just all soul and Britain, which I think is interesting. But I think the influences of R&B are strong in my sound, but I put a twist on it because I have all these other influences like theater and musicals and opera and country, and all those things are infused in my sound. So I try to, it's a fine thing to balance, because you want your songs to be commercial enough to play to all audiences, but you still want it to be you. So I feel like I'm always doing the dance with R&B to be like, okay, how does that fit into with the mainstream, and how can we insert it in there and make it palatable for people who might not like it? You know what I mean? So I think it definitely, the R&B influences on my sound, for sure.
Now, one of the newest social media platforms is Clubhouse. You recently got to perform in Dreamgirls as Effie White. As a sign of the times, do you think this is the way that entertainment is moving? And what was your experience like doing that?
That was a crazy experience. It was really good though. Like, we all kind of were just like, why not? Let's try something new, try something different, be on the cusp of something new and great. And all of us got together like, okay, we're just gonna see how it goes. And of course, as things go, if we get frustrated, we're like, I don't understand this technology. Why doesn't it work? You didn't tell me we needed all these 1,000 wires to make the sound great. But then at the end, it became like we were so obsessed with trying to make it as good as it could be. And it felt like old school theater, where you're like, I'm gonna take whatever I have to make this event successful. And so that's kind of what happened. And we were on the Zooms every weekend. We rehearsed for like 8 weeks. It was crazy, on Zoom, like an hour every week, or almost 2 hours every week. And then like we would do sound checks for hours, trying different equipment, trying different things, because we wanted it to sound great. That was the thing, because it's an all audio app. That's all you have is sound. So if your sound is not good, it's just like having a rip in your costume or ugly sets. You know what I mean? Like, so we wanted that sound to be great. And we got these roadcasters and monocasters and things to make it work. And then it was like, wow, we were having these amazing connections online, like where we could still create characters and feel it online. And what was so weird, the night that we did it, you can't hear anybody. Like, you can't hear the audience, you can't feel them. They're just like little stickers on a thing. But you could feel it. It was so weird. Like, you could feel if you were doing well. You could feel that your song went well, even though there was no applause. It was something about the energy of this app, which I think is so crazy, but I think that's where it is going. It's like, we need to push ourselves, towards giving access to everyone. We have to give the arts access to everyone. And that's why I did it, because I was like, there is some kid in some town somewhere who can't get to a Broadway show, but can get on this Clubhouse app, turn it on, and hear a show and be inspired and think, maybe I could do that someday. And that is what we have to stop being so elitist about our art. I feel like even people were looking at us crazy. They were like, you did that for free? I would never do that for free. But I was like, you know what? Somebody did something free for me, so I could be where I am today. Somebody took their time and was like, I love my craft so much that I want to give a piece of it to someone so that they can take it and run with it. So I think it was just so cool to like reach a whole new audience. Like I gained so many fans that weekend. I went back and did an encore concert and told my story. And that was even more impactful because we were like, oh my God, I didn't know the story of you and like what you've been through to get here. So I loved it. I think it's definitely a way of getting art out to the masses in a new way, and not in an elitist way, but just, educational way.
That's fantastic. So what are your hopes for the return of live theater?
My hope is that this diversity thing, I'm sick of the word diversity without the action of diversity, because people are like, oh, we need diversity, and then they'll put like one black person in the lead and then the rest will still be white. So like, so what's the point? And also, everyone who's running the show, the people who actually make money off the show, like the producers and the writers and the choreographers, are still all white. So then we don't have any access to wealth in our own industry. That's the other thing. It's like, we'll pay you to do the gig, but we won't allow you to get wealthy or buy a home or be able to run a business. So that's what I hope that changes. I feel like I'm working on something now where I was asked to be an executive producer. And I was like, it didn't even occur to me that I could be that. That's the crazy
wow.
part. That's diversity action. Being like, oh my God, why wouldn't I be?
That's an option?
That's an option? So no, when he told me that, the producer told me that, I was like, what? I'm an executive producer? Yeah. So then, because all of your blood, hard work, sweat, and tears I'm putting into the show, when it goes on to other places, when it's playing in Australia and whatever, I get royalties from that, as you should. And then you can accumulate wealth because you own something.
Right.
You have ownership in something. And I think that's kind of where we have to go as a people. This is why Black people and people of color in general are set back, because we don't have access to wealth. We can be rich, but we can't be wealthy. And I think that's what has to change.
That is a very, very good point. I think that was something that actually came up with the whole Hamilton cast. It became a talking point, and I believe they won in that situation because it was the same scenario of, okay, we've helped create this, and now can we help ourselves to the profits that are going to be made for the years to come? And they won. So hopefully that'll be a new direction that a lot of theaters will be going in.
They have to.
So I mean, it's something that it should be done just morally, because like you said, let me sing and dance for you, but I still gotta go home to my apartment and not home to my house, or go home on the train and not go home in a car that I parked across, so all those things. And I do feel like we're going in that direction, and the best thing, as you said, is access, and access will also give the education on it. And once that goes on, you can't stop us. We've already done so much that's one thing that they're like, oh no, too much information is getting out there. They're getting hip to the jive. So we'll work on that. Okay, so of all the amazing things that you have accomplished, what is your favorite experience?
I don't know, that's difficult. And a couple of them happened just this year. Well, the best experience that I've had, well, I have two. One was when I got to work on Feel Good, and I walk into the set and I'm like a duck. I'm like a fish out of water. This is like my first big major role where I actually get lines in a character arc, and like I'm in a couple of episodes. And the first person I see is Eve, the rapper. And she was yeah. And I'm thinking like, what? How are me and Eve in the same like world right now? Because I remember being a kid and being like watching Eve on BET with her, paw prints on, like living her best life. She was like a ride or die chick on the back of the bus. And then I'm in this, in my trailer, in the makeup trailer with Eve, and she's like, "Hi, Marisha, how are you?" And we're just chit chatting. And then Lisa Kudrow walks in, and she's just like, "Hey, like it's fine." But at that moment, I was like, wow, we're always just so close to greatness. Like, it's what separates me from them. Like, now that we're all in the same show, we're equal. So I thought it was just like a big realization to me that, like, we put these people on pedestals and we say it seems impossible, but it is possible. Like, it is possible to be in that room. You are, worthy to be in that room, and like all your hard work does get you to the rooms like that. And I just had a great experience on that set, like working with them and learning from them, and also feeling like a star in my own right, which was so crazy because like the set, like everyone's laughing, they're like, oh my God, we love what you're doing, rah, rah, rah. And all the times that I ever doubted myself, especially in film and TV, somewhere that I'm not comfortable, it just kind of went away. And it was kind of like, wait, when I just be myself and stop second guessing myself, then I can, do miraculous things, and people will like me as I am. So, and I like me as I am, which I think is great. And the other moment was when I got to sing for the Queen. Like, I was standing there in this beautiful gown that was made for me, and I'm singing the song that I recorded on my couch only a couple months before. That whole like 360 of that moment, standing there singing it for the Queen and knowing that I was just in my pajamas a couple of months ago singing it on my couch, crying, just trying to get through my life. It's just like you just don't know the path that your life will take. That's why you always just have to just take the risk and just put yourself out there and see how it happens. And also, I'm from the country. I'm from North Carolina. I didn't grow up with money. There was just no way in my life that I'd be singing for any queen at all. So I just thought, wow, it was just a moment to behold, singing that and making my dreams come true, because that's not the way that I planned it at all. It was just kind of just happened. Here we are.
Aren't those the best moments? But you didn't plan it, because life is what happens when you make plans. So hope has been a recurring theme for you, and your latest single, Faith, has been receiving a lot of traction on Radio 2, UK's #1 radio station. So my question for you is, how does that make you feel, first of all, because you are a star in your own right? And secondly, do you have any advice for your fans who are listening to music like that at times like this?
I love making inspirational music. I feel like, because I grew up singing in church, and gospel music was always what got me through. But I just know that it's not always universal for everyone. So I wanted to create kind of like hybrid. What if gospel and pop came together? Pop, gospel, soul, where it has lyrics that you can, dig your teeth into and hold on to, and that will get you through your daily, grind and what's going on in your life. And Faith was written by Toby Gad and Tasha Bedingfield. I worked with them on this. Toby Gad wrote All of Me by John Legend, and If I Were a Boy by Beyonce. So it was like a major songwriter on it. And we were like, we just want a song that can get you up out of the bed in the morning. When you turn on your coffee, you play the song, you're like, okay, I can go get the world. And that's what, the kind of music you want to create, music that moves you. I always told my my label and my management, I was like, I like making music that makes you stop, not the music that it just sits in the background of your life. I like music that lives in the foreground of your life, where you actively choose to turn it on because you need it. So right. I think that's what I've enjoyed so much about it. I still can't believe that I'm on the radio. It just feels like weird. Especially because I get an alert every time they play my song on the radio, and I'm getting alerts like all day. So I was like, oh my God, people are like, this. It was the #1 most played on the radio for the past couple of weeks. It was on the A list for the radio stations. That means this is the song they have to play every day. And like, I'm seeing my name up there with Dua Lipa and Jessie Ware, and I'm like, what is happening? But
honey, you better get used to it, because you are a star. Just accept it internalize it because it's showing on the outside. So just accept your blessing because it is here. You have arrived. You've done so much, and I know this is just the beginning. Thank you so much for joining us today, Marisha. Once again, I'm your host, Lynette Wallace, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more from Marisha Wallace soon.